Taj, you've got this bit here. I forget, it's right.
Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu rasulillah. Wa ala alihi wa ashabihi. Wa man tabi'ahum bil ihsani ila yawm al-din amma ba'd. So tonight, inshallah ta'ala, we'll be continuing discussing the book Al-Mulaqis al-Fiqhi by Sheikh Salih Fawzan, Hafidullah. And we started discussing Kitab al-Nikah, which is the bab that discusses concerning matters regarding al-usra by way of the ahkam of nikah that are also divorce and other matters that relates to al-usra. So the first of those chapters that he opened with in the bab of nikah in discussing his ahkam, that is Shaykh Hafidullah, he discussed concerning within the last lesson that he discussed brief concerning the permissibility of nikah, and that is something which is legislated in Islam, and also of those things legislated by the Anbiya that was before. Then also the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ that encourage regarding al-nikah. Then he discussed the matter regarding al-masalih and nikah, those things that are mentioned here of the masalih, of those benefits that comes with being married, regarding that goes back to the individual and also the society in general. Then after that he discussed concerning the hukum of nikah, and the Shaykh mentioned that nikah, that it falls into those 5 categories regarding ahkam at-taklifiyya, that goes into at times a nikah, cannot a nikah, should be something which is wajib, at times mustahab, at times it may be mubah, at times for another person may be haram, and at times maybe something which is makruh. Then he gave some example regarding some of those cases. Then the Shaykh Hafidullah, he went on to discuss of those things regarding nikah, that of those matters that relates to of those qualities that one should look to in looking for a wife. We discussed some of those points. So with that, inshallah ta'ala, we'll pick up on the next bab, which we discuss babun fi ahkam al-khitbah. So ahkam al-khitbah. So we'll cover concerning what is mentioned here regarding these matters. Tafaddal.
I don't know.
Right. Right.
Go again.
Oh, that needs power. When Saraj?
Yeah, it's right. Good connections in here. Yeah, it goes up back down there.
I will just wait until the technician come and
No. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. قال مؤلف حفظه الله. Chapter 2, page 356, title Engagement. The Prophet ﷺ said, when one of you gets engaged to a woman, if he can look at what will induce him to marry her, he should do so. Related by Imam Ahmad and Abu Dawood. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam also said, look at her for it is better that there should be love between you. The aforesaid hadiths indicate the permissibility of looking at what usually appears of the body of one's fiancée furtively, and also without sitting privately with her.
So they mentioned regarding concerns of the author, after Hafidullah, he started by mentioning the hadith or some hadith of the Prophet ﷺ regarding إذا خطب أحدكم مرأة فقدر أن يرى منها بعض ما يدعى إلى نكاحها فليفعل. So he mentioned this hadith, that they mentioned a hadith here is Sahih regarding this matter, where At-Tib rahimahullah, that you have mentioned regarding this particular hadith, that they mentioned فقد ذهب بعض أهل العلم إلى هذا hadith, that some of the ulama that they have aligned to this particular hadith, where they mentioned لا بأس أن ينظر إليها, where there is no issue or there is not a problem for the man who's interested in marrying that lady, that he should to look at her. So majority of the ulama is after that is something which is permissible regarding looking at the lady that you intend to marry. If the person
Faqih say it is deemed allowable for a man who intends to get engaged to a woman and believes that she is likely to consent to look at what usually appears of her body without sitting privately with her, provided that he feels secure against temptation.
So they mentioned regarding Qal al-Fuqaha that of the author here mentioned regarding Qal al-Fuqaha regarding this matter of the permissibility of looking at the woman that you wish to marry. He mentioned يبا لمن أراد الخطبة المرأة وغلبت على ظنه إجابته, that the person wished to marry that woman and he believed that most likely, he believed that most likely that she'll respond in a positive way to his khitbah, to his proposal, then the person can look at her. And he mentioned another ما يظهر غالبا, that to see as to what she would, so to see certain parts of her that she would normally not expose, so to see of her what she would normally not expose. So he mentioned that is something which is mubah. That you find that Shaykh al-Khatlan in his explanation of Dalil, we mentioned al-Salsabil fi Shar al-Dalil, that kind of some of the conclusion he mentioned that based upon the newest hadith or the hadith that discuss looking at the female for the one who proposed to her, that's not just something to say it is mubah, but the hadith they kind of indicate something which is more than this, is above, which is said it is mustahab or something which is a sunnah to be done. So it's more, so it is recommended that a person that he actually look at the lady that he wish to marry is not something which is just mere mubah, just permissible, but rather it is something which is a higher rank than this to be done. They mentioned بلا خلوة وإن أمن من الفتنة, that it should not be done with just both of them are by themselves, but it should be somewhat supervised and there's no fear from it. But overall regarding that the hukum of seeing the lady that one wish to marry, it is something which is permissible. And inshallah ta'ala to be discussed as to what is allowed to be looked at. What is allowed to be looked at. So they mentioned al-khitbah is the person here, talabat al-zawaj min al-mar'a, which is al-khitbah is the person who is seeking or proposing to get married to a female. And also that one will use the general method that is that are in place. So use the method that are in place in seeking the hand of a woman in marriage. And also the khitbah at times in most cases it would be the man proposing for to the woman, but also it could be a case where it's vice versa. So also it is allowed, it says a case where a female may be interested in a particular person, a particular man, and she can somewhat start the process by where she's the one who can that seek his hand in marriage, is seek his hand through proper channels, by where she'll maybe speak to her wali or someone in authority, and they will be the one kind of somewhat to bring it to that man's attention that she's interested in. So it is something which is allowed, but it said in most cases that would be the man proposing to the female, but it's allowed for a female to propose to a man through the proper channels. Aywa.
Jabir, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated, I used to look at her, i.e. his fiancée, secretly until I saw of her what induced me to marry her.
They mentioned regarding this Athar on Jabir, that the previous hadith had mentioned, that is all narrated by Jabir. But also, so you have a portion of the hadith where the Prophet mentioned, إِذَا أَخَذَ أَحَدُكُمْ الْمَرَأَ, that if a person proposed to a woman, then he should try to see of her what he is able, so as to marry. And he mentioned, فَلْيَفْعَلْ, you should do so. Then I mentioned that also Jabir, and someone mentioned his case. So Jabir, the narrator of the hadith, also he added to this by mentioning regarding what he did. So he mentioned that he would kind of somewhat sneak and try to look at her because of the interest that he had for the woman. So to see, is there anything that he would see to more encourage him to want to marry her. So, but I mentioned regarding that the portion of the hadith that mentioned regarding the act of Jabir kind of hiding himself and to look at the woman. You have some discussion regarding, is that part of the hadith authentic? So is that portion of the hadith authentic? You have some discussion between the ulama regarding the act of Jabir. Is that narration authentic or not? So some hold that the isnad is daif and some hold it is hasan. But a discussion between the ulama. Aywa.
This indicates that a man is not to sit privately with the woman he intends to marry, and that he can look at her stealthily. Yet one is not allowed.
It's a private dimension by themselves. So just him and her without it being supervised. So private meaning that is just both of them doing as they say, we just say, but both of them by themselves, and there's no supervision of their encounter, of their meeting.
Yet one is not allowed to look except at what is usually and conventionally apparent of the body of the woman one intends to marry. This permission is restricted to the person who thinks that the woman is likely to respond to his proposal of marriage. Otherwise, if it is not attainable for the person to have a look at the woman he intends to marry, he may send a trustworthy woman to see her on his behalf, and then she may describe her to him. This is based on the hadith related by Imam Ahmed, stating that the Prophet ﷺ once sent Sulaym in order to see and examine a woman. Whoever is asked about his
So the issue that is being discussed, is the issue regarding, so you have the permissibility for the man to view the woman that he intends to marry. Now the discussion between the ulama regarding the specifics is what is allowed to be seen. So from the woman now, so they discuss, so what is to be seen. So the Shaykh al-Sawad mentioned, لأنه لا ينظر منها إلا ما جرت العادة بظهورها من جسمها. That is mentioned that, so the person should see of what she will normally show exposure for her body, like when she's indoors. Now, so the discussion between the ulama, what portion of the body is that man able to see from that woman? Now, so you have a khilaf between the ulama. Regarding what is allowed to be seen or not to be seen. So based upon the hadith of Jabir that is mentioned previously, so of the ulama, and this is the jumhur of the ulama, that they take the position that it is permissible for the khatib, for the man who have proposed to that woman, and yandur, for him to look ilayha, to see her, mimma, that will kind of somewhat encourage him more to marry that lady. What is to be seen? They mentioned that a jumhur of the ulama, they call la yara minha, is not to look upon her except her face. He can see her face. So if the woman, for example, she wear niqab, then he can see her full face without the niqab. Then also they said kaf, which would be up to her hand. Some you mentioned up to so the hand, and so of those who meant that, and also her feet. So they mentioned that. So you have here they mentioned that the hands, the face, the feet, that is allowed to be seen. Then that's concerning the qawl of jumhur of the ulama. Nam, so they mentioned that of the ulama, and the qawl of the ulama who hold that it is allowed, which is the view of the Hanabila, that the person is allowed to see. So the discussion becomes, so the Hanabila agree with those areas that is outlined, the face, the hands, and the feet. Nam, that they even specify that when they say the feet of but is up, would be up like to her knees. Nam, so like a woman normally when she's in her home, that she may wear, or said no sleeve, just whatever top that may go up to her elbows. Then she'll wear her dress will maybe go up to cover her knees. Nam, inside the home. Her face will be covered. No discussion in the home normally should expose her hair. So is that part, is he allowed to see her hair? Is he allowed to see her hair? Nam, so you have the discussion regarding the hair. So you find that Jumhur says no, he's not allowed. But you find of the Hanabila, of the ulama of the Hanabila, as mentioned by Mardawi in his book Insaf, that with Ahmed Hanbal, Imam Ahmed rahimahullah, you have different riwayat. So of those riwayat of Imam Ahmed, that the man is allowed to see, that he mentioned in some of the riwayat mentioned her hands, her feet up to her knees. Then other narration mention he's allowed to see her hair. So you have some narration, some mention that view is the more correct view of Ahmed, that he give an allowance that for the man to see the hair of the woman that he wished to marry. So the person that, if he's bent, that he wants to marry this woman, then he's allowed to see of the hair of that woman. So that's concerning that discussion between the ulama. So it goes back, so when I mention that she is allowed to see what she ordinarily would expose in her house, that will also include the hair. So, and those who, even Shaykh Khatlan, discuss those who mention not the hair, but the other parts of the body can be exposed, that there's no evidence regarding to say the hair is excluded, that is not allowed, and only allowed to see just the face, the hands, and the feet. There's no clear dalil on that. And by the hadith of Jabir, that there was some allowance, or the Prophet gave that somewhat allowance, where the act of Jabir was it was left unchallenged, where he kind of somewhat climbed, saw the woman when she was in her own environment, and most likely she would be without her head cover or scarf. So he mentioned that of the ulama, that it is allowed regarding that one is allowed to see her hair. One is allowed to see her hair. So as mentioned, that a discussion between the ulama, is he allowed to see the hair or not? But so it goes back to that lady, what's her stance on that matter? Does she view that is allowed to be seen, that the man who's interested and his interest is very high, and they are most likely, they might take things further, that for him to see her hair. So that's of those matters. So that's concerning that view, what her position is, whether she would allow or disallow. But overall, it shows that so that the view that it is something that can be seen. Allahu Alam, but it's of those things that can be seen regarding the hair of the woman who the man is proposing to. The next matter from this, that for example, you had a meeting. They have meetings, but of the meetings, he saw her hair in the first or one of the meetings. But they have another meeting and he wants to see the hair again. So is it allowed for it to be repeated, the act to be repeated? He saw it before, but he still wants to see again, kind of somewhat to, as I said, not to make the matter kind of somewhat solid for him, concrete, to finalize his decision. Now, is he allowed to see a second viewing of her hair? Of those who mention that it is permissible, as it would be the thing that would somewhat push him to marry this lady. Not in the case with a person doing it at a form of just, she comes in the room and from the start, she is undressed. So that's different than she exposed, then put back on her hijab, and then, but he wants to see it again, then it is something, they mention that, it is something which is allowed. As I mentioned, that seeing her, so it will help in him making a final decision. It is something which is allowed to be repeated. The next thing that they discuss regarding the third, seeing of pictures. Seeing of pictures. So the Shaykh mentioned that of the ways that a man seen her, the second way of the person knowing what she looks at regarding in some more details, that seeking going to someone to that viewed her, another female who viewed her, and then that female informed regarding the details of things, seen of her hair and the likes. So being told by another female by way of her description, then they mentioned that's another method. They mentioned of another method in our time is the person seeing a picture, so a photograph. So in today's time, that you find photographs and also you have videos. So those things they mentioned, it is allowed the person, one, if he was to get access to that picture or photograph, then it's only for him to look. The other one who's proposing. So it's only for him to look. It's not allowed for him to show it to others, especially male. So it's not allowed for him to. And also after you have seen it, then he should delete it. After you've seen it, he should delete it. So those things to be mindful of. So they mentioned that these are some of the masail that relates to this matter. Just caution or something that just to mention, we'll just mention it because they've occurred, that you might find that in taking of pictures and photographs and videos, you might find a husband and wife might take photo that are pictures, photos that are not to be seen to the public. Now, the husband might have those things. Then you find of a case where when they were married, there are photos between husband and wife. Now, then when a divorce or split between them, one being, use the word malicious, that they'll put those private photos to the public, then that's completely haram. Also, from the time that they divorce, they should delete all their pictures, because they're not anymore husband and wife. So from the time that they get divorced, has been finalized, then both should delete any picture they have of each other. Then the worst scenario said, no, for one in being malicious, to use this to, means that put this, I said, no, online for everyone to see it. Then that's criminal. Said those things that, and those things are not the person that could be punished for this in an Islamic court. A person could be punished for this act, for that type of exposure, as by way of ta'zir, as a way of a punishment for doing something of this nature. So said that also that's something to be mindful of. So what is expected from husband and wife, if they want to have pictures of themselves, that is between them, those pictures are to be kept between them, not to be posted or passed on to anyone. And even after upon separation, those pictures are to be deleted, and also nothing to be put out in public as so as to expose the other side or to tarnish the other side. Then that is haram. And the person who does that, then those people should be, you understand, like in their local community, should be seen as a person who's an oppressor. A person should be seen as an oppressor and cautioned against, and should be warned against such practice and mention of and the person. So that's concerning those things in general concerning what is allowed to be seen by way of the husband and wife in the time of the proposal, in the different forms as we had mentioned, and we mentioned regarding the caution and what is allowed, what is done after marriage, but also with some guidelines. And after marriage, then what is not allowed and what to be done, all pictures to be deleted. Aywa.
Whoever is asked about his opinion on someone intended to be engaged should answer honestly, mentioning bad qualities of the intended person, if any, as well as any relevant things, which is not considered backbiting in this case.
So the mention regarding concerning matters regarding ghiba, which is a mention about a person, your brother or person, something negative in their absence. So that's concerning ghiba. So the ulama have mentioned, and amongst them An-Nawawi also and others that have mentioned regarding that ghiba, that mentioning or stating things that are said to be negative, that a person may dislike about them, being said about them in their absence, that you have certain exemptions. So you have about 7 cases mentioned by An-Nawawi and also others. So in the book Riyadus Salihin, that he mentioned those cases of exemptions where a person can speak about another person in a negative way or make due to legitimate reason. Due to legitimate reason. So of those legitimate cases where a person can mention about the other person in their absence things that are negative regarding concerning a case of marriage. So the person who's looking to get married to a person, they may ask of your advice regarding, if you know of this person, what can you say as for or against that person. Then a person, what they know, they mention. Whether those things that they know is negative or positive. And more so not to hide the negatives. So the Prophet ﷺ was so even not to mention. So the Prophet ﷺ was asked regarding then he mentioned the negative about some of the Sahaba. So at least the woman, she go into, or the husband, to be both enter into the marriage knowing that said the negative and the positive, even a positive, the negative, so the person, at least they're aware. And if they make the decision yes, then that's on them. But they can't say I did it out of lack of knowledge. But they are to be informed. And if the person then make that choice, then halas. Then at least they did it with insight or with knowledge. So in general thing, that saying negative thing about a person, it can be by a third party, can be done as a way of, if the person is asked. And the person, if you ask, so you find someone getting married, and also, so the person getting married, and you ask a person, so if you didn't ask, you don't have to say. So you might know something negative, but if you're not asked, then you're not held accountable for not saying. The person says, you should have told me, because I know you, but you didn't ask me. You understand? So in certain matters, because these matters can be somewhat very, we use the word complex regarding marriage. If you ask, then you can speak of what you know. If you may know the people involved and you are not asked, then you have done nothing wrong. And the person cannot blame you later for not telling you information that was not asked for. But a person trying to be honest regarding information that's given, try to be honest and to speak of what they know in an honest way and not in a malicious way. Not in a malicious way, not to give that information in a malicious way. And also, just another that sometimes a person might ask you, and you tell them what you knew. You're just being genuine, as they say. You're just being genuine, and you just kind of you answered according to the question that was according to the person asked for your advice, and you gave him what you knew. That a person did marry the woman, or she did marry the man. Then later on, when, as I said, that's an example, things start to, as they say in English, go pear-shaped, as they say in English, but things kind of somewhat, things that start to go through its challenges. Then the person said, that then one party, start to explain that, then the husband, for example, the husband will say to the wife, or the wife says, I did ask your friends about you, and they say, and they start to, you understand? Then that also not to be done. Hey, they throw you under the bus. Hey, okay. You understand? So also that not to be done, not to expose or to expose the person that you ask in confidentiality certain matters, and they gave you, but now you're going to use it, throw the person under the bus because of the situation. So the person not to take that approach also, not by way of the husband and the wife after marriage, kind of somewhat to throw other people under the bus because of your situation and circumstance. And also another matter, by way of, as I said, tajriba, cases, if you find that you're asking advice and many people giving you advice, for example, that seems that highlighting certain things about that person that may be negative, and many people are saying the same thing and caution about the same problems. And then those problems, I think that you shouldn't ignore. And you did go into it, then, and then the thing that you were being cautioned against, as I said, then you have to face those issues. Then, then you have to somewhat be patient with the situation and deal with it in a most appropriate manner. Because you were warned and cautioned, but still you enter into the situation, then you have to just kind of deal with what you're being dished out. For Allah musta'an.
It is prohibited for a man to use direct declaration by proposing to a widow or a divorced woman during her waiting period, such as saying to her, I would like to marry you. This is because Allah exalted be, He says, there is no blame upon you for that to which you do indirectly allude concerning a proposal to women. Surah Baqarah, ayat 335. Hence, Allah exalted be He allows indirect allusion by proposing to a widow or a divorced woman during her waiting period, such as saying to her, I am interested in you, or such like indirect expressions. This indicates the prohibition of direct declaration of proposal to a widow or a divorced woman during her waiting period, such as saying, I would like to marry you. This is because such a direct proposal to a widow or divorced woman may urge her to lie about her waiting period out of her desire for marriage. Ibn al-Qayyim said, Allah prohibited direct proposal of marriage to a widow or a divorced woman during her waiting period, though she is not the one who decides the end of her waiting period. This is because direct proposal may incite her to haste to respond and lie about the passage of her waiting period.
So we're discussing our matter regarding the next of those matter that a female that now have ended her marriage. So a female that the marriage have ended and she's going through her iddah. So I mentioned mu'tadda. So mu'tadda could be that you fall into a woman that going through her iddah or have ended her iddah because of her situation. Either her husband is still alive but they're going through a divorce, or they have completed a divorce, or her husband have passed away and she's going through an iddah. So all of those cases, so proposing to a woman who's going through her iddah, is it something which is permissible or not? Is it permissible that she's still in her iddah or waiting period, where either she had been divorced and going through her waiting period, or her husband have died and she's widowed and she's going through her waiting period before she can remarry anyone? Is allowed for a person to propose to her during that case. So I mentioned that you have different cases of iddah, different ahkam applies to it. So not one rule applies to all. So you have different circumstance, and if so, in some cases that it's allowed for a person to propose, but indirectly, can't be explicit. And in some cases, one can be explicit or indirect. So is the different cases depending on the type of iddah that she's going through. Aywa.
On the other hand, proposing to a widow or a divorced woman during her waiting period, whether through allusion or direct proposal, is permissible for him, i.e. the divorcee, who has divorced her irrevocably but less than 3 times, as he is allowed to remarry her during her waiting period. In this respect, Shaykh al-Islam Taqiyuddin said, allusion as well as direct proposal is permissible for the one, i.e. divorcee, who has the right to marry her during her waiting period.
And what is that case? In that scenario, that the man during a waiting period, he can mention yubah, tasri' or ta'arid. So what will be the case where a man can propose to a woman while she's in her iddah, directly or indirectly?
So if he's divorced her once and she's in that iddah period, then he can directly go to her and make a proposal.
Okay, so 1 divorce,
Twice as well.
or 2 divorce, then he can still directly go back to her and propose directly or indirectly. Okay. But she's going through her iddah. She hasn't completed her iddah. So, for example, okay.
But then is that a proposal then?
Yeah, so that's I'm saying so during the iddah, for example, that a husband have given his wife a talaq, first one or second. Just say the first one in this scenario. So she's going through her iddah. So, for example, yesterday, being Sunday, he divorced his wife. Now, he said to her, I divorced you. So she started her iddah. Now, she sees 3 cycles. She has 3 months. Now, for him, so that iddah, or waiting period, is go for 3 months. Now, then in that case, he can take her back. He doesn't have to. There's no proposal. He just take her back. They call it talaq al-raj'i. So in case of talaq al-raj'i, there's no taking back. Then there's taking back. There's no remarriage or proposal. Clear? So in the case of talaq al-raj'i, the husband divorces his wife. She's going through her first divorce. She's going through an iddah of 3 cycles or 3 months. Then it's for him to take her back, as we'll discuss that. But for him to just take her back, there's no proposal. I take you back and that's it. Or they have a relation and that's it. Now, so you have that case. So in that case, no one during that iddah raj'i, no one external from a man can propose to her directly or indirectly, because she's still technically a married woman. So no one external can propose directly or indirectly.
So in that
So that situation.
So in that situation, it would be when the woman's finished her iddah period, her second talaq. then he can make it indirect. No.
So that one, so that one, anyone can marry him. For example, if so in the second case, the second scenario would be a case where that, so in this case, she's still in her iddah. So if a husband divorced his wife and she have completed her iddah, 3 months have passed, and he didn't take her back. So they're considered after the end of that 3rd month, then they are now completely divorced. Now, anyone, whether him or anyone else, is that like a first divorce? So you still have 2 more chances. So him or anyone can, and in that case you can do it directly or indirectly, in proposal whether him or someone else. Clear? So in that case, okay, after Sheikh, after that we try to find that case that they're discussing. So, because of time, so a case regarding that a woman that is in an iddah and the man can propose directly or indirectly would be a case that a woman has been divorced by way of either khula or fasq. So the marriage has been annulled. So the nullification of the marriage. So she still have to go through, they discuss what it's called a iddah, or it's called a istibrar, but she's going through a waiting period, which would be, in a case of, for example, a khilaf or khul would be 1 month, right? During that time, she's not allowed to marry anyone else, but he can still propose to her during that time, directly or indirectly. So even though with a khula, for example, in the case of khula, from the time that the khula is agreed upon or given, for example, a khula was given yesterday, and the woman saw immediately from that time, yes, from yesterday, they immediately divorce. They're not husband and wife. But she has to go through an iddah, we said, a waiting period of 1 month. And we'll discuss that more, that khilaf between ulama, but we said that in the call of a 1 month, he can still propose to her, even though she's going through an iddah. Clear? So it can be that the proposal from him, even though he's an ex-husband, but he alone can marry her directly or indirectly. Another person outside cannot. You have to do it indirectly. Clear? Clear, Juan?
So in that, for example there, the khula was given yesterday, for example.
Hey.
An indirect proposal can be made, say, for example, today.
Yeah.
But the marriage can't take place until
After.
With that indirect proposal, can they still have meetings and get to know each other?
Yeah.
But then the nikah can't be done until.
Everything cannot be finalized until then. And we'll discuss more of those matters, that whether they can get married again during that time or not, to be discussed. But so in that case, he could propose to her and make a proposal to that female. So you have different cases then, scenarios. أيوة تفضل.
It is prohibited for a Muslim, to propose to a woman who is already engaged to another Muslim. Thus, whoever proposes to a woman and his proposal is answered, it becomes prohibited for anyone else to propose to her until the first suitor gives him permission, or when the proposal of the first is rejected. The Prophet ﷺ said, None should ask for the hand of a woman who is already engaged to his Muslim brother, but one should wait and see if the first suitor will marry or leave her. Related by Al-Bukhari and An-Nisa'i. Imam Muslim also related that the Prophet ﷺ said, none should ask for the hand of a woman who is already engaged to his Muslim brother until he, the first suitor, leaves her. Moreover, Ibn Umar narrated that the Prophet ﷺ said, none should ask for the hand of a woman who is already engaged to his Muslim brother. Related by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. Al-Bukhari also related that Allah's Messenger said, a man should not ask for the hand of a woman who is already engaged to his Muslim brother unless the first suitor gives her up or gives him permission to propose to her.
So the hadith that is discussing regarding in certain stage of the proposal, so at certain stage of the proposal, it becomes haram for another person to be involved. By way of if a man ever proposed to a female and she have given a positive and she said, yes, I accept your proposal, I want to marry you. Then from, even though they haven't yet married, no one is allowed then to propose to her. So for example, the man proposed to the woman, they agreed that, and she said, yes, I'm going to marry you. And she gave him answer, yes, I'm going to marry you, Fulan, last week. But they said the marriage will take place next month. Then no one's allowed to propose to her because she have accepted marriage or to marry that person, even though marriage have not yet taken place. So no one's allowed to propose. So that's concerning what this hadith discusses. Aywa.
All of the aforementioned hadiths, as well as other ones having the same meaning, stress the prohibition of proposing to a woman who is already engaged to another Muslim. This is because such an act may spoil the engagement.
In next case, that's a quick clue, so we can get it in. That, for example, in a case regarding Ahli Kitab, that a woman from Ahli Kitab, let's say she is Christian. Now, she proposed and another Christian man have asked for a hand in marriage. And she said, yes, I want to marry you. You know, their thing can go, okay, next year, 6 months from now. So she there waiting. So a Muslim man then got into the matter and then now proposed to her. Nam. So they mentioned that based on what they mentioned, لا يحل المؤمن أن يخطب على أخيه. So they mentioned that because that the Christian man is not from your brother in Islam, then you can interject. You can. That's with some of the ulama. That's with some of the ulama. So they make it because they mention akhihi. They mention that applies to Muslim with another Muslim, but does it apply to a Muslim with a non-Muslim, meaning a Nasara man that may propose to? So they mentioned that. So you have that discussion also between the ulama. You have some discussion on that matter between the ulama. Aywa.
This is because such an act may spoil the engagement of the first suitor, spread hatred amongst people, and involve encroachment on others' rights. Hence, if the proposal of the first suitor is rejected, or he gives permission to another person to propose to her, or he leaves her, it becomes permissible for the second suitor to propose to that woman. As the Prophet ﷺ said, stipulated, unless the first suitor gives up or gives him permission to propose to her. This is the duty of a Muslim towards the sanctity and inviolability of his fellow Muslim whose violation is prohibited. Nevertheless, some people do not pay the least attention to such matter. In other words, one may knowingly propose to a woman who is already engaged to another and gave her consent. By doing so, one is encroaching on another's right and spoils his proposal, which is by all means prohibited. In addition, the one who intentionally does so deserves to be rejected and punished as well. Therefore, a Muslim should be aware of such a matter and show respect towards the rights of other fellow Muslims. Every Muslim has inviolable rights and should be respected by other Muslims. A Muslim should not propose to a woman already engaged to his fellow Muslim. he should try not to cancel the purchase of his fellow Muslim trader to gain it for himself, nor should he cause any kind of harm to his fellow Muslim.
That's the end of it. Hey, so that's concerning. So what is mentioned in brief regarding of the ahkam that relates to al-khitbah. So al-khitbah, that would be one of the process regarding the marriage that the person is as the method in trying to engage or to, regarding seeking a female that they go to concerning what is called al-khitbah, which is trying to find a suitable person and that he has proposed to. So also said that the rule of the female also have a right to see the man. You understand? So she might ask him if that she have a right also to see the man, see that it is someone that also that she's pleased with regarding his appearance. So regarding concerning his facial appearance, that she has a right also to look.
Meetings, having meetings.
Aye.
Is that counted as part of the proposal?
Yes.
Is a man allowed to have numerous meetings and a woman is forbidden from having, or is the same between both gender?
So the first question is
Meeting.
having meetings. Having meeting
Proposal.
is a part of the proposal will be also having a meeting. So use the word like we said, so as to get to know each other. So to get to see that, to discuss with a female. So you might see someone you're interested in, but you don't know much about her. So how the person get to know information. So either person have these, organized meeting, supervised meeting, where they're able now to can have that discussion, where they can see, okay, are there things that are compatible between us regarding our view takes and different matters. So having meetings, yes, it's allowed, supervised. That, and I said it's not a general thing. One meeting don't make a decision based upon just one meeting. Don't make a decision based upon just one single meeting. Now, that first single meeting is like when you're going for a job interview, that's that it is. It just everyone will show the best side of them. Now, so you just want to give a general idea what a person is, then you can, from what you gather, then you can also then explore other things. But we said that, so the general thing is that, yes, meetings allowed, supervised type of thing. The next part of the question,
For a woman.
for a woman, can she has more than one? Can a man and a woman have
Multiple meetings with different brothers, for example, a woman, and is a man allowed to do the same?
Aims that you have one with a woman that she was proposed to by more than one man in terms of the Prophet and he mentioned that he directed her to Osama. So you find that more than one, Abu Jahm and others, and Muawiyah, that they are proposed to a female, and she asked the Prophet concerning the character reference about them, and he told her what he knew about each individual. Then he also, after that, even pointed her to a third person. So she was somewhat exploring more than one proposal. In a sense of she haven't come to a decision or come to a determination that she wants this particular one. So when she comes to determine that, but it's not for a woman to be that, you understand, she have 5 men waiting. You understand? It doesn't look too, sometimes it doesn't, for some people, it may not look too good. So, as for the man, also then the same thing applies. That he making us explore different female, you understand, based upon his situation, circumstance. But not to use that way to explore the situation. You understand? Not to explore the situation of, you understand, the person that's where people use a word that you're just playing with the situation. You're just playing with the situation. Clear? So that's the thing that so if the person is serious, then say that the ideal situation to meet the person, then you just take it one step at a time. One step at a time. But if the person have multiple choice or situations he's exploring, not to play with you, to play with the situation. Just want to see all these women, then that's not good. Or she just want to entertain all these men, then that's also, you understand, not good. أي خلاص